Can you paint a picture of what a healthy microbiome actually does for our health and wellness, and even how it works?
Maybe the most extreme example of showing why a microbiome is important is we can generate germ-free animals. Mice, for example, or rats, or even pigs in some extremes, which have no microbes at all. They're completely sterile, and you can leave them living in a completely sterile environment. And they do exhibit health defects that are a result of not having access to microbes. Their immune systems don't develop properly. Even cognitively, they can not be as well developed. Certainly, digestion is significantly affected. So, in a very extreme case, we can see we need a microbiome to function properly. One of the main things the microbiome does for us is helps us to digest our food. There are many things in our foods that we as humans can't digest, but the microbes can. And then they can break them down into things that we can digest. And it's estimated that we would have to consume, about 50% more food if we didn't have microbes just to maintain our body weight. And unfortunately, of course, we've reached a point in human history where, or fortunately maybe, where we have more food than we need. Most people do. And people would love to be able to eat more food and not put on weight. That's kind of almost the holy grail now of nutrition is can we design foods that people can eat and yet not put on weight? But obviously throughout human history, with limited access to food, we needed to convert that into as much energy as possible. So the microbiome helps us to digest food. You can even see for example, mother's milk. Mother's milk contains lots of sugars, human milk oligosaccharides, they're normally called. And maybe, 20% of the sugar in mother's milk is made up of these human milk oligosaccharides that the baby can't use. The baby cannot digest them. And think, why has evolution got us to a point where a mother is putting a lot of energy into making sugars that her baby can't digest? And the reason, we believe, is the mother is already priming the microbiome, is deliberately feeding the microbiome to develop a strong, healthy microbiome to help the baby develop properly. So that gives us a sense of how important these microbes are, that we've been evolutionarily designed to make sure they're there and that they're properly fed, even in newborn babies. One area where the microbiome has proven to be very important, and it's an area that has really excited scientists, and it was perhaps a little bit unexpected, is the area of microbiome transplants. I talked already about maybe transplanting the microbiome from young mice into older mice and dealing with some of the consequences of aging. But there was a famous experiment done 20 years ago now that really triggered the whole microbiome area, which is when people could show that if you took the microbiome from people with a condition and transferred it into germ-free animals, animals that did not have a microbiome, the animals would then go ahead and develop that condition. So as an example, Jeffrey Gordon in the US, he took the microbiome from twins, identical twins who are identical in every respect except one was obese and one was lean. So these twins have the same genetics, the same background, but one is obese and one is lean. He took the microbiomes from each of these twins and put them into germ-free mice. And the germ-free mice that got the obese twins microbiome became obese. Germ-free mice that got the lean twins microbiome stayed lean. And they were on the exact same diet, these mice. And that was fascinating, the idea that two different microbiomes might have completely different energy harvesting capabilities, which would lead to a phenotype change in the human. And since then, it's been shown that if you take, for example, the microbiome from people with inflammatory bowel disease, the animals will develop some of the symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease. If you take the microbiome from anxious humans, the mice will develop behavioral issues which will look like anxiety. So there is some evidence there, quite compelling evidence, that the microbiome can really affect us and our health. And I think that's really fascinating. But which microbes are doing it and why and how and can we manipulate that? That's the real challenge for microbiome science.